Hi everyone, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, good evening.
Good
So we
evening.
can start the session. Good evening, all. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. How are you feeling now, sir? You were really
Yes, actually, that was the viral. So I had a very bad temperature. It was 101, and my throat was choked. It was very severe cold, and in my family, like everyone was affected.
yeah, it's like a viral fever.
Yeah, even today morning as well, like I am feeling like that, but that's not the fever. I have cold, but that's very low actually. But I think that within 2 or 3 days it will be severe, because again my daughters got impacted for that. So maybe that's the viral season in Delhi. So this is going to
Yeah,
get happen. Last weekend I could not take the class because I was not able to speak. My throat was choked. Gala kharab tha mera. That's the reason. Otherwise, fever is nothing for me, because in the fever company don't give any leaves. Evision provides the leave. Evision is good in terms of that, but from my company, I did not get any leave when I was ill. They just told me that you are working from home, so you can just relax and you can work while laying down on
continue
the
the
bed.
work.
Yeah, वो ऐसे ही बोलते हैं, दवाई ले लो, and that's not a big thing. So the only option is message karo, phone band karo. But on my position, even we cannot do that kind of thing as well, because we have a lot of responsibility from the company, and or salary is a big matter. बड़ी salary तो फिर, और अभी थोड़ा रिसेशन भी चल रहा है मार्केट में हम लोगों के लिए, जिनकी सैलरी ज्यादा है, तो हम चौड़े नहीं हो सकते. So let's start the session then. uh, from next weekend I will start the AWS. From next Saturday we will complete whatever is required up to the AWS level in terms of Linux by tomorrow only. Then on next Saturday, we can start it. So before starting, let me know if you have any doubt, any question from the previous session, anything. Anyone would like to ask anything, any doubt, any question? पूछ लो कुछ पूछना है तो. AWS.
No, sir. Nothing.
Your batch got started on 4th March and Azure got started on 21st Jan. Okay. The permission parts have been completed. We have seen two permission method, the symbolic one and the numeric one. And I believe all of you might feel that numeric one is very easier than the symbolic one. Even I also feel that numeric one is easy as compared to the symbolic. So you should know the process only. It's not something that interviewer will ask you about this. You should know how to work. If someone is saying that assign the permission, then you should be in a condition to do that. That's it. Whatever method you use, it's up to you. So no doubt, it means you don't have any doubt. मैं पूछूं फिर? No doubts.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay,
Nothing.
then let me start one topic. Then I will ask the question from you. But let me start a new topic. Let me cover the theoretical part. Practical one we will complete tomorrow. So let's talk about process in Linux. This is a new topic. Actually, I was about to take the classes at 8. Even I have also scheduled it for 8, but unfortunately I have to leave somewhere else. कहीं जाना पड़ा मेरे को. एकदम से कुछ ना कुछ ड्रामे. In the next weekend, it will be on 8. I don't have any plans as such, but let's see. So let's talk about process in Linux. Before starting this topic, just let me know. I ask from you. Anyone knows what process is? What is process? Anyone? You can just use any statement. you can discuss this matter in the general context as well. Like, what do you understand by process? If I ask you what is process, what do you understand with that? Anyone?
The process is like execution.
Execution. Okay, good. Anyone else?
Like chain of action to complete a
Check.
task.
That's also good. Anyone else?
Step by step process with chain management.
Okay, change management. Good. Anyone else? See, when we talk about process, process means the task which is going on. The task which is going on currently, that is called process. Suppose I have opened this particular file, I have opened this Word file. So this file is in process. It is in running condition. So that's called process. If I will close this file, if I am not doing anything on this file, so can we call this as process?
No.
We cannot.
No, sir.
Because process will always be in the continuing condition. It will be in the running condition always. If nothing is being happened, if anything is stopped, we cannot call it as process. So you can say the midsection, starting to end, whatever comes in the mid, if anything starts and if anything is going to get completed, so whatever comes in the mid, the journey in between start and end, that is called process. If you are traveling from Delhi to Mumbai, so Delhi is your source point, that's your starting point. Mumbai is your end destination, that's your ending point, and the journey from your Delhi to Mumbai to reach to Mumbai location from Delhi, that's called your process, the journey process. So if you are starting something and if you are about to finish something, so whatever comes in between, that's called process. Now, similarly, when we talk about any operating system, in every operating system, we do different kind of tasks. We create the user accounts, we work on the operating system, we work on the file, we work on the browser, we download anything, we watch any video, we access any site, we work on any kind of software, we just play games, we watch movies on the laptop. So on operating system, we do different kind of task. If we are working on any application, that's our process. If we are downloading something, that's our process. If we are accessing any particular URL, that's our process. If any Word file is open, that's our process. So any task which is currently going on, that's called process. Whether it is Windows, whether it is Linux. In Windows, how will you get to know? So we can just open the task manager. In the task manager, you would be able to see the process in Windows. The task manager. So in the task manager, we would be able to see the process. Where are the process? So these are the current process. We are in the process section and we can see the current process which is currently going on. And if you want to see the backend process, there are two types of process in the window. The first one is the running process that is going on live. And there is a startup process that works in the backend. A startup process means whenever you turn on the laptop or desktop and whenever you will log in into your system, so there are something which is running in the backend, which is automatically running in the backend and we are not aware about it. So that's called startup process. Means the system will be started and after the system starts, this kind of process will be running automatically. So that's called startup process. Then in the window, there are some services which is running in the backend. If you click on the services, you can see there are some services which is running in the backend. Some services are very much important. Some services are not very much important. Just like here you can see even most of the service name we don't know. Some are stopped, some are in the running condition. Here you can see these are the status. Some are stopped, some are running. Some services are important for us, some are not, and even for some we are not aware. Just like for DHCP, we are aware that DHCP service is running here. It means we are getting the IP from the DHCP. I am connected to my Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi is getting connected from my router, which is there in my home, and my router is providing me the automatic IP. That's the reason my DHCP is running in the backend. So every service has some purpose. The service which is stopped, it means that is not in use. So that's called backend services. Backend services which is running in the backend, which is in use. If it is not in use, that will be stopped. Startup services which runs automatically when we turn on our system and when we log in into the OS. The current services which is in the running condition, that's called running process. Like these are the running process in the system. Every process will have a PID value. Just like here you can see there is a PID value. PID means process ID. If I drag my pointer over here, you can see service process ID. See, service process ID. In the white you can see. So PID means process ID. Every process will be getting a unique ID that's called process ID, the PID. And whatever process is running in the system, you can see somehow it is consuming your resources, the system resources. Just like this process, the Zoom meeting is using 9.2% of the CPU. It is in variation. Sometime it is between 7.5, 6.5, 5.6, 8 something. So it is using my CPU. It is also using my RAM. 455.5 MB of RAM is being utilized. There is no disk operation, means hard disk is not in use for the Zoom meeting process. Network is getting used by 0.3 Mbps of the bandwidth, means my internet connectivity is being used on the Zoom, 0.1 Mbps. GPU, I have the graphic processing card as well. I have the graphic card on my laptop, so it is also being used. Power, it is using my power at high level. Power usage is very low. Power usage, this one means the battery operations, the battery power. And this one means what? If you expand is, then you would be able to see power usage trend. Trend means how much power generally it consume. So Zoom consume low power as on average, but right now it is consuming the medium power. Currently it is consuming the medium power, but on average, if I take the average, then it is consuming the less power. So every process which is running in the system, somehow they use our resources. Why they need the resources? Why they use it? Anyone can answer about this? Why the process use our resources?
It helps them to complete the task.
Okay, good.
So to run the application smoothly.
Good. Let's talk about human life cycle. Anyone knows what is human life cycle? It is not related to technical. It's a general thing, human life cycle. When we talk about the human life cycle, what happens? A baby will get born. There will be a birth of a baby. After the birth, gradually the person is going to grow. Suppose there is a boy who got born. After some time, gradually the person is going to grow. Currently, it's 1 day baby. After some time, it will become 6 months of baby. After some time, it will become 1 year old. After some time, he will become 5 years old. After some time, he will grown up. He will become adolescence, like 16 years old. That's called adult. After some time, he will become the man. After some time, he will become the father. After some time, he will grow old. And after some time, he will get died. Mar jayega. So that's the human life cycle. Starting from birth, starting from birth to death, whatever happens in between, that's the process. What's the process here? The process is the person is getting older and older. Apart from getting older, there are some different activities as well, like the person will get married, he will have children's, he will study, he will grow in the career, he will do the job, or either he will do the business. So he will become the grandfather, the great grandfather. So that's the process in between. And finally, he will be died. Now, once the person will, suppose there is a newborn person. Do you think the newborn person is going to eat something? Obviously, no.
No.
So it means when we talk about the process, initially when we start any process, the resource, meal is what? Meal is our resource. When we talk about the meal means khana. Meal is the resource. For a newborn baby, the meal eating capacity is very less. He or she is not going to eat that much food, that much meal. So the capacity of eating the meal for a newborn baby will be very less, even zero. He or she is not going to eat anything. It means whenever any process gets started, whenever you start any process, that time it does not use that much resources. Meal is what? Meal is a resource. Why meal is required? Meal is required to sustain the person, to sustain the process. If at my age, if I will not take my meal properly, if I will not take a healthy diet, then I will not be able to work. I will become weaker. I will have to face a lot of illness. So according to the age, according to the workload, according to the stress load, the person decides their meal. So similarly, there is a newborn baby. That time the capacity of eating the meal for a newborn baby will be very less or even zero. So it means wherever any process gets started, it does not take that much resources. Suppose I open any file, if I open any browser, if I just open any browser, if I'm not doing anything on the browser, no process is running. It means it will not consume that much amount of resources because I have just opened the browser. But if I will run something on the browser, suppose if I watch the movie on the YouTube, if I watch any video on the YouTube on this browser, if I start downloading something on this browser, so gradually the process consumption will become higher. Currently, you can see my Google Chrome. Where is my Google Chrome? This one. Google Chrome, this one. See, यार ये ऊपर नीचे भी हो जाता है. Where is the Google Chrome? This one. So my Google Chrome is not using anything. See, 0%. RAM is getting used because we are seeing the screen, but RAM is also very less. But there is no CPU utilization of my Google Chrome. It is 0%. Why? Because I am not doing anything. I just opened it. So there is no resource utilization. When I will do something on it, if I will run something on it, then gradually the resource utilization will become extended. So similarly, if for a newborn baby, the process will be started, but the resource consumption will be very less because he or she does not take that much amount of food. Gradually, once the baby will grow, once we put the workload on that baby, gradually he will grow, he will go to school, the age will get developed, he will do the physical exercises, he will read something, he will learn something. So there will be workload on that baby. And once there will be workload, the meal eating capacity will be higher. There will be resource utilization. The process will ask for the resource. He will ask for the meal, that I need 2 rotis. I need some rice. So according to the age, according to the workload, according to the work that we are putting on that child, the child demands the food. Similarly, when we talk about any process, any task which is going on the operating system, if we will put the load on that task, just like if I just open the Google Chrome, it is not a process, it is just a running thing. So it will not consume that much memory, that much CPU, that much disk. But if I will do something on it, it is going to consume my resources. It is going to consume my physical resources, just like my RAM, my CPU, my disk, my network, everything will be used. Just like here, you can see the Zoom is using this much amount of CPU, this much amount of RAM. Because in the Zoom, I am doing my meeting. I am connected with you on the Zoom. So that's the reason the consumption is very high. But rest of the things have very less consumption. 0.1%, 0% even. Even Google Chrome has 0% utilization. See, 0. So gradually, once you will put the workload on any task, then the resource consumption limit will get increased. So whenever the child will grow older and older, then the resource consumption will be increased as per the workload. Means the meal consumption is going to get increased as per the workload. Now, birth of the child has happened. Child has grown up. He is going to school now. After school, he will again grown up. He will go to college. Once the college is finished, then the child will start doing the job or either business. He will become the businessman or he will become the professional. At this stage, the child is going to get stopped. At this stage, once the person is in the profession, he will stop. The process will be stopped. He will be doing the same activity. Here, there was the variation in the process. Here, for some period of time, the person will stop. So that's called sleep. Technically, that's called sleep process. When the person is not actively doing anything, he is just doing his regular task. So technically, that's called sleep process. Just like if I just open the Google Chrome. So this is a process. The Google Chrome is started. It is open. But I'm not doing anything actively on the Google Chrome. I just open it. It is just open on my screen, but I'm not doing anything actively. So that's if I will do it for a longer duration. Suppose for 30 minutes, for 1 hour, if I will not do anything on this Google Chrome, if I will just make it open, that time it will become the sleep process. So technically that's called sleep. Sleep means actively nothing is happening and the process is looking for something. Google Chrome is saying that please use me. You have just opened me. You have just opened me and you are not doing anything on my screen. So I'm on the sleep condition. I am sleeping just. So just do anything with me. So Google Chrome is looking out for a process. He is saying that I need some work because you have opened me. So that's called sleep process. In the sleep process, the active process will be looking out for any kind of process that please do something. I am not actively being used. After this, the person is going to get married. Yeah, spelling a marriage. So person is going to get married. Once he will start his business or once he will do his job, there will be sleep process. He will be doing the same kind of routine activity every day. And after some period of time, he will look for another process. That my current process is running. I'm not actively doing anything special. So now he will look for a girl and he will get married. Once the marriage will happen, again, the person will have children. It depends on the person whether they would like to have the children or not. So they will have the children. Once the children will be there will be child process. Parents are still there. Parents are doing their process. Parents are doing their process. They have the child now, and the child will be doing another process. Now the child will grow up. The child will go to school. Child will become older. He will grow up. He will go to college, and same process will be running. But he is this person is the child, and who is the parent? Their mother and father. So this person will be known as child process person. Similarly, in the technical, the process which is currently running, if that process has some child as well, child means if any associated process is also running because of that process, just like, let me give you an example. Here the Google Chrome is open. So Google Chrome is one of the process. If I will start downloading something, suppose if I just search TeamViewer download, and if I click on the download, so this downloading is happening from the TeamViewer website. So this will create another process that you are downloading something using the Google Chrome platform, but the downloading is happening from TeamViewer. So this is going to start another downloading process. But this process is happening why? Because of Google Chrome. So Google Chrome has initiated this process. So Google Chrome will be known as parent. So Google Chrome will be known as parent process. And the downloading that I started, that will be known as child process. It means this child process is somehow interrelated to me. You might have noticed there are some process which is dependent on another process. If I open the taskbar, there are some application in the company. There are some application which is dependent on the another process. So the process which is directly executing the task, that's called parent. And the process which is associated, which is dependent on that main process, that's called child process. Just like I have given you the example, if I open the Google Chrome, if I search something and if I download something, so downloading will be the child process because that's a different process, but that is happening because of my parent process, because of my Google Chrome execution. So there can be two processes, parent process and child process. But it is not mandatory that every process will have a child process. It is not mandatory. Just like here, I have given you the example that it is not mandatory that after marriage, there will be child. It is there. It is the wish of parents. If they would like to have the baby, they will. If they don't would like to have the baby, they will not. So similarly, it is not mandatory that every parent process will have a child process. Some process can independently work. If I am doing any single action, which is not dependent on any other thing, then the child process will not be created. Just like I have opened my Word file now, I am writing something. It is not dependent on anything. I am doing it on the Word directly. So that's my single process. I have not started any downloading. My Word is not dependent on anything. So that's the single process that is not dependent on anything. So the child process will not be created. So it is not mandatory that every process will have the child process. Some process are independent. Some process will have the child process as well. Suppose I am asking you one question. Suppose there are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 persons. Person 1, person 2, person 3, and person 4. Person 2 has started this person 2 is the user. Person 2 has started process number 3 and process number 4. Means these two process got started by person number 2, the user number 2. So for process number 3, And for process number 4, who is the parent?
Process 2.
Process 2. And for 4,
Process 2.
right? Because he has started the process. If someone is starting any process, they will become the parent. Just like here in this case, if they give the birth to any children, if any child get like if any single child gets born, so they will become the parent of that particular child. So similarly, if any user is starting something, if any user is starting any process in the system, then that user will become the parent processor, and the associated alternate process will become their children. So here the process number 3 and the process number 4 got started by process number 2. So process number 2 is the parent and 3 and 4 are the child. So the parent process will have one of the PID because every process will have a unique ID. So that PID is called PPID, parent process ID. So 2 is the parent process ID because process number 2 has started this process number 3. Again, 2 is the PPID, parent process ID. And number 3 is what? Number 3 is child ID, child process. Similarly, here also number 4 is my child process. And they are under my parent process ID 2. So whatever operating system you use, Linux, Windows, Android, Mac, whatever you use, they are going to consume your resources. Whatever process you will run, they somehow consume your resources depending upon the workload. It depends what kind of work you are doing with that process. Accordingly, it is going to consume your CPU, your RAM, your disk, your network, your power, your capacity, your GPU. Every process will, some process are independent. They will have the PID value. PID means process ID value. If any process has any child process, then they will called child process. And every child process will have one of the parent. And the parent will have one of the process ID, which is called PPID, parent process ID. If the process is running independently, it will only have the PID. If the process is a single process, that will only have the PID value. But if any process is the parent process, it will have PPID value. Child will not have the child value. It will only have the PID value. But parent will have the PPID value. So PPID means parents, the parent process ID. PID means process ID. And there is one child process which is dependent on their parent for any kind of activity. The parent is going to provide the resources to the child. Just like your parents are giving you the resources. Now you are earning, now you have grown up, but earlier your parents was giving you the resources. If you need anything, if you need any money, if you need any meals, if you need any shelter, your parents are going to provide it to you. So for every child process, the parent process is going to allocate the resource. Whatever resource consumption will be required, it will be allocated by the parent. So how it will be decided, what level of resources are required, how much RAM is required, how much CPU is required. So it depends upon the workload and it depends upon the operating system. Operating system decides how much resources are required for a running process. It is the job of operating system. You might have the people of someone of you, if you have done your computer science BTech, the BTech in CS, then you might have learned about the topic of operating system. In the operating system, you have learned about a topic which is called batch processing. So batch processing is the same thing. It is the job of operating system is to decide how much resource has to be allocated to each and every process. If that's a child process, how much resources will be required? PPID is going to decide it, parent is going to decide it, but how the parent will decide it? So it will be decided by the OS. In the backend, OS will be allocating the resources from your real hardware. So PPID is the parent process. Inside the PPID, there will be multiple child process running. If the process is running individually, that's called PID only, the parent ID only. Now let's again go to the human life cycle. Starting from birth, there will be multiple process. There will be a sleep process. In the sleep process, nothing is going on actively. There will be hibernation status for some period of time. Nothing is going on. We just open something and we are not actively doing anything on it. So that's called sleep process. After some period of time, the person got married. Now children are there. After some time, there will be process, and after some period of time, the person will become old. This person, the person who took the birth, he will now become old. And after becoming old, finally he will died. Died means end of process. Here the process got started from the birth. The journey happens in the mid, and finally the person got died. That's called end of the process. The process is now finished. And if the process is finished, if the process is end, it means it is not going to consume any resources. If I just cancel this Zoom, I am currently connected with the Zoom with you guys for the class. If I just cancel this Zoom, if I stop the meeting, then it means the process is dead. It is dead. It is stopped. And if the process is stopped, then it is not going to consume anything. It will not use my resources because it doesn't exist. It is died. Mar gaya wo. If I open my task manager, if I stop any process, suppose if I just stop my McAfee antivirus, right click and end task. If I do this, it means my process is dead. It is stopped. And if it is stopped, then it is not going to consume any resource because it will move from here. It will disappear from here. So finally, if the person dies, it means that's the end of process life cycle. No resource consumption, nothing. Similarly, in the system as well, in the OS as well, if we are not doing something, if we just end the process, then there will not be any resource consumption. Now, when we talk about process types, I'm talking it in the context of Linux. So the first process type is what? Start. We start the process. We start something. The second process type that I discussed with you, that sleep. In the sleep process, actively nothing is happening. Just the process is open for a longer duration, but that's idle. Nothing is happening on that. That's idle. That's called sleep. Then the process can be stopped. Stop means it's dead. If we cancel the process, if we are not doing anything on the process, if we just stop it, if we right click and end task, if we cancel it, if I cancel this Word file, then this process is stopped. So that's called dead process in Linux. Means nothing is happening. The process is closed. It is dead. If I close any software in Linux, it means that process is dead. Nothing is happening. It is not consuming my resources. Here, there will be resource consumption. Here also there is a resource consumption. But here, there is no resource consumption because you have cancelled the process. You have stopped the process. And there is one more process which is called zombie. I think you all are aware about zombie. Do you know what is zombie? You might have seen this in the
Yes, sir.
movies.
Film.
What is that?
Yes, sir.
क्या होता है? Batao. What is that?
Zinda Lash.
Zinda lash.
That is one kind of monster we have seen in the movies.
Monster. Actually, I've never seen this zombie kind of movie because I'm not a good fan of Hollywood. Even I am also not the fan of Bollywood. I don't watch that much movies, but yes, in Linux. Let's talk about Linux. Let's don't talk about in the context of movie because I will not be able to explain that. मुझे पता ही नहीं है zombie क्या होता है. So in the Linux, zombie is a process. It's a real process name in Linux actually. What is zombie? So if any process, suppose you are running any process, a process is running on for a longer duration. For a longer duration, you have just run a process. The child process also got created. Along with that process, it has created some child process, some dependent process. Now the main process has become the parent process, and the associated process have now become the child process. Now, after creating the child process, no activity is happening on the parent process. After a long period of time, the parent process has created a lot of child process. Now parent process is doing nothing. It is just stop. It is just sitting idle. It is sitting idle for a longer duration, and now it has dead. No activity was happening on the parent process. Now it has dead. After a particular life cycle, after a particular end of life, it has now dead. Once the parent process is dead, there is no existence of the child process in the Linux. Because child process are depend on the parent process for their resource allocation, for their activity. So if parent process has been died after some period of time without any activity, child process is still live. It is not dead. It is still live. So it's still alive. It's not dead yet, but nothing is happening. These child process are doing nothing. Parent is died. It is died. Child is doing nothing, but they are somehow consuming my resources. They both are consuming my resources. Process is stopped, but it is not closed. It has automatically stopped, but it is not closed. So it is not consuming my that much resource, but somehow some amount of resource will be used because it is open. It is open, but it is stopped. It is not closed properly. Child process is still active. It is alive, but there is no use of this child process. Their parent does not exist. Their parent is not going to tell them that what to do, how much resource to use. So they are not doing anything. They are just alive, and they are using my resource too. So if any child process does not have any parent, if their parent have died, if their parent have stopped, and they are sitting idle, then after some time they will become zombie, which is just consuming my resources. That is just a dead body which is not in use. So that process is called zombie process. The process which is dead and not in use. Just like parent process is dead, not in use, associated child process is alive, but it is also behaving like a dead because they don't have any parent to support, to give them the job, to allocate them the job. So they are also acting like a dead. They are not in use, but they are consuming my resources. They both are consuming my resources. So they are called zombie process. They will become zombie. Inactive process. The waste process, the rooted process. Rooted means sadagala. So this is also one of the process type in Linux. Understood? The Linux
Yes,
से
sir.
निकला ये zombie. Actually, this Linux has invented this zombie. It was way back in 1994. Even in Unix also there was zombie process, but the name was different. The zombie name is arrived in the Linux. So this concept is clear. What is process? What is process ID? What is parent process ID? What is child process? What are the process types? Any doubt? Any questions? Anything? Kuch bhi you can ask.
Sir, please repeat the zombie topic.
Tom.
Zombie. Okay. See, zombie process means if you have a running process for a longer duration, you have a running process, but after some time you are not actively doing anything with that process. Just like suppose after my meeting gets closed with you, means after my session gets closed with you, my session is over. What I will do, I should close the Zoom. I should stop the Zoom. But instead of doing that, what I have done, I just cancel your session. You all have disconnected and I have not closed the Zoom properly. I have just minimized it. So it's minimized. After some period of time, because it is not in use, I'm not using Zoom now. I will use it on next weekend. When again I will start the Saturday Sunday class, then I will use the Zoom. So for an entire week I am not going to use the Zoom, but that is minimized and my laptop is on. I did not shut down my laptop. The process is running in the back end. So if the process is not in use, after some time that will become dead. Automatically that will become inactive, dead process. Just like in my task manager, there might be some process which is not in use. They are dead. Just like here, if I go to services, you can see some process are stopped. So maybe initially these process were in the running condition, but they are not used for a longer time. That's the reason they might have stopped. And there are some running process as well. Screen share बीच में आ रहा है, wait. So there are some running process as well, which might be not in use. Maybe I just forgot to cancel it properly. So they are running in the backend, but they are not in use. So after some time, they will become inactive, but they will be using my resources. There will be less consumption, but yes, there will be some level of consumption. Just like CPU will not be used because the process is not being used. It is inactive, but RAM will be used because it is running in the backend. It is using the page. So RAM will be used. So the process which is not in use for a longer duration, that will become dead. And if that is dead, and if any child process was running on that process, if that process, the process that I created initially, if it has any child process, so if my main process has been died, it is not active, then what is the use of my child? Because the parent process was giving the instruction to the child what to do, how to do, and how much resources to use. If the parent is not alive, it is dead, it is inactive, then child will not be functioning properly. They will not be doing anything. They are running, but they are inactive. They are not doing anything. They are just using my CPU, RAM, my disk, my network. So they are just using my resources because they are running, but they are not doing anything. They are inactive. So if any child process is not doing anything, it is inactive, but it is using my resources, and the parent process have been died, that is called zombie. So in the zombie, child is there, that is inactive. They are just using my resources. Parent process has been died. They are just using my resources after dead as well. So that's called zombie. The monster process, the rooted process, the सड़े हुए process, which is just consuming my resource. If in my home, if I keep some rooted vegetables means सड़े हुए vegetable, along with my fresh vegetables. So after some days, it is going to root my fresh vegetables as well. मेरी अच्छी सब्जियों को भी खराब कर देगा वो. So similarly, if any zombie process is running in my system, which is inactive, which is rooted in nature, not in used, so they can impact my another running process as well, because they will be consuming the resources. So they will not allocate the proper RAM and the proper CPU to another resource. They can create the problem. If I will keep it for a longer duration, it may corrupt my important files as well, because that's the idle process. And even it can attract the hackers as well, because the process is active, the process is running, but it is not doing anything. It is inactive in nature, but it is running. The process is there, but nothing is happening. So hacker can target this process and he can enter into the network, because nobody is watching this process. It is inactive in nature. No work is happening. Only the door is open. Entry point is open, but nothing is happening. Just like I have 4 gates in my home, I just use 1 gate to enter and exit. 3 gates are sitting idle. They are not in use, but they exist. So if any thief tries to enter and steals my what we get articles, if any thieves try to steal any articles from my home, money from my home, so they can enter from the 3 back doors, because that's not in use, that's idle. I am not actively looking into that door. I'm just actively looking into my main door from where I am exiting and entering. Similarly, if any process is died, if any process has become zombie, hacker can target it to enter into the network. So these 4 are the types of process in the Linux. Start, when something is going to get start. Sleep, when nothing is happening actively. The process is in idle condition for a longer duration. Stop, when the process have been stopped, when nothing is there, no resource allocation, the process is dead. And the zombie, when the process is running, but it is inactive in nature, and it generally happens in the case of parent and child. When the parent process has been died and there is no use of the child process now, but it is still running, but no work is happening, it is idle. So that will become the zombie. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So these 4 are the process in Linux, and there is a practical of it as well. This is very like easy kind of practical, you know very well. We are
Sir,
talking
one
about
small
the
doubt.
task manager. Yes.
Sir, in Windows, if some services are not working properly, it may corrupt to OS in Windows.
Mhm.
The same way it will happen in Linux.
Yes. It may
Okay.
corrupt the functioning of Linux. It is not going to corrupt the Linux operating system. Linux does not get corrupted in very early stage. It is
Okay.
going to impact the servers of Linux. If any
Okay.
service is running in the Linux, it is going to impact that. But
Okay,
in
sir.
Windows, it can impact the entire operating system.
Yes, yes. Okay.
So these are the process in Linux. In Windows, there is no zombie. In Windows, there is a start process, sleep process, and the stop process. Zombie is only there in Linux. ये Linux में होता है. So just like in Windows, there is a task manager. In Linux, there will be a process manager. And there are the practicals of this. We will have to see this one. And we will see this practical tomorrow, actually, not today. We will not be able to complete it. That's the reason I am not starting it. Any doubt in the process? वैसे तो easy था ये. Any doubt, any
No.
question? So should I ask you any question from the previous session? पूछूं कुछ या अभी तैयारी करोगे? And one more thing, we are pending with the sudo permission as well. Sudo नहीं हुआ था ना अपना?
Yes, sir.
Abhi-
Yes, sir.
Pseudo practical we have to see. Theoretical I have explained it to you. Theory was whenever I am not logged in. Let me explain it again. Suppose I am logged in with the root in the Linux. If I am logged in with the root account, it means I have the full power. I have the full privilege. I can do anything. I can create the user, I can delete the user, I can assign any permission, I can delete something, I can modify something. But if I am logged in with a local user account, so local user account does not have that much privilege. Local user account cannot create the user, local user account cannot check the IP address, he cannot modify any other files, he cannot allocate any permission. But in the company, there will be local user accounts. Root is only one. We cannot have multiple roots in the company. So root means administrator will be only one. He will be very chief engineer, the senior, the head engineer. He will be having the full rights on the Linux. Rest of the engineers will have their local user account. They will be working on the services. But as we have seen practically, local user account does not have that much rights. Then how is going to work? If local user account does not have that much right, then how is going to work? Because if whatever I will do in the Linux, if I am logged in with the local user account, means if I am logged in with the dollar, then if I will try to do any admin level task, then it will ask me the password. You might have seen that. If I will try to switch user, even I am logged in with the local user account, and if I will try to do the switch user, then it asks me the password. What password it asks me? It asks me the password of root, because local user cannot switch user to another user as well. But if from root, I am logged in from root, and if I try to switch user to another user account without password, I can switch. So for most of the task, if I am trying to do any admin level task, for every admin level task, it will ask me the admin password. Same thing happens in the window as well. In the window, if I will try to install any software with the local user account, it will ask me user ID and password. If I will try to uninstall any software, it will ask me user ID and password. So how the company is going to work then? If I don't have the right, I'm the engineer, I don't have the right, I logged in with the local user account, because in company only one root can be there. Company cannot give me the full permission. So every time it is asking for password, but company is not going to share me the root password, because if I will have the root password, then I can do anything in the Linux. So company is not going to share the root password with me. They cannot give me the root right as well, because root right means the full rights on the system. So what they can do is, if they want to give me the limited rights, that you can create the user account, you can modify that, you can check the IP, you can assign the IP, like whatever admin level task the root wants to assign to the local user, that you can only do this kind of task without any root password. It will not ask you any password prompt. No password prompt will appear. So that is possible in the Linux. That is possible from sudo. Switch user to operations means sudo gives you the permission to do the admin level task after logging in from the local user account, but not the complete right it is going to give you. It is not going to give you the complete right. Whatever right the administrator will give you, the root will assign you, only you can do that task with the sudo. It will not ask you password again and again. Just like if you want to create any user account after logging in from the local user, by default, you cannot do that because it will show you don't have any permission. But in case you want to do it, you can with the sudo permission. So sudo is like a admin level permission, but it is not a full permission, just like the root. Root is going to give you the sudo permission according to your level of designation in the company. Whatever permission you required for your task, you can become the member of sudo and you can do that task without asking for any root password. So that's called sudo. So this is going to use in the company very often. And how to give the sudo permission? So we have to practically see that, but let me show you the step. I think I have mentioned it in this file, not in this file, in the different file. Let me show you. Permission. Then in the class 11 permission, yeah, this one. In the class 11 folder, there is a sudo permissions file. In the class 11, you have the link of this Google Drive. So you can go to the class 11 sudo permission file. And here I have mentioned the commands. So I could not show you this practical because of the last leave, but we have to cover this. So there are three methods through which you can assign the sudo permission to someone. The first method is you need to go to this location. This is etc location. In the etc location, all the configuration file of the server is available. During the file system hierarchy, I told you. So in the etc location, there is a sudoers file. Sudoers is the main file of the sudo configuration. If you want to assign any permission to the user, you need to go to this sudoers file, sudoers configuration file, and accordingly you can grant the permission. In case you don't want to do any modification in the main file, this is the main file, this one, sudoers. Suppose you don't want to do any modification in the main file because maybe it may corrupt. If you will not do the changes properly, it may get corrupt. And if it will be corrupted, then our Linux system, if I don't have any backup of Linux, then it is going to get impacted. So if you don't want to do any modification in this main file, there is a duplicate file as well. So the duplicate file is called sudoers D. D means duplicate. So you can go to this location and whatever permission you want to assign, you can apply that as well. But that is a duplicate file. In case this gets corrupted, or if something wrong happens on this file, you will have the backup available because your main file is still alive. It is not impacted. The third option to give the sudo permission is there is a by default group in Linux. If you will check all the Linux cat etc group, that's the command to check all the Linux group. So you might have noticed there are three types of group. I have told you in the practical as well. The first group is root group, which is for root user. The second group type is system group, which is for system users, that gets automatically created. And the third group type is local group that we create, just like we have seen the practical. So if you will use cat etc group command, then you would be able to see your root group ID, your system group ID, and whatever group we create, we get that information as well. So in the system groups, there is a by default group which is called wheel. Wheel is a by default group. If you want to make any user the member of sudo, if you want to assign any sudo permission to any group, to any user, then you can make that user the member of wheel group. If you will make the member of that user to the wheel group, then the user will get the sudo rights. He will have the admin privileges. So these three are the methods, and we have to see the practical of this one. So today I will cover it, not today. Tomorrow I will cover it, not today. So today we have to cover this part, sudo, and we have to cover the permission part, and that will be covered tomorrow only, so that we can start our AWS. Understood? If you will have any doubt, you can even come tomorrow as well along with your doubt, because Linux will be finished. Like Linux is not finished actually. Linux is a very broad topic, but at your level, it will be finished. And on the portal, on the AWS portal, don't assume that the Linux is going to get finished. Now we have to do the practical on the AWS portal. From the next session, we have to start the practical of OS on the AWS portal. Means next of the things we will be doing on the AWS portal now. So tomorrow we will cover this part, the process along with the sudo. In case you will have any doubt, you can ask me tomorrow, not today. Today you don't have any doubt. You will study further, then you will come up with the doubts.
Sir, you said help. You
Hmm.
need to cover one of the questions.
Your voice is not properly audible. धीरे बोल रहे हो तुम.
Sir, help section. You said that you cover next session.
Yes, tomorrow I will cover these two topics practically. Then on Saturday, if you will have any doubt, you can ask. Saturday is the doubt session actually. On every Saturday, we do this practice for AWS and Azure candidate. Whatever doubts they will have on per week basis, they can ask. So today I just taught you the
No, sir.
topic.
Sir,
Yes.
help command, sir. Help.
Okay, help command is pending. Okay, I will do it. No issues. I just told you the Linux is not completely completed. We have to see it on the AWS portal now. So अभी Linux चलेगा साथ साथ, AWS के साथ साथ अभी चलेगा. But अब वो AWS पे होगा. Because our base has been created now. Okay. So this will happen. Software installation is pending on the Linux. That will happen on the portal now. We will do it on the real company scenario basis, like how the things happens on the AWS. Then help is also there. We will have to understand about help. We will have to understand about logs, but that will happen on the portal from the next weekend, not tomorrow. Tomorrow we will complete it on our Linux machine. So any doubt, any questions? कुछ पूछना है किसी को?
Nothing.
No. So we can connect tomorrow then. I will schedule the session and we will complete this practical by tomorrow only. Okay.
Yes.
So let's
Thank you,
connect
sir.
tomorrow then. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
your time. Have a good night.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Good night.